The more sustainable strategy is just avoiding those foods about 80% of the time.
A lot of holiday weight is actually due to bloating.
The more of these foods you have, the more accustomed your kind of body gets to having them, and the more you'll crave them and the more you want them.
Most people think protein is for men or maybe even younger people who go to the gym, but actually this is completely wrong, completely backwards.
The majority of extra calories burned throughout the day come from...
Hello and welcome to the Trinity Fit Over 40 podcast with me, Rob Burkhead.
And me, Ben Hughes. We are the co-founders of Trinity Transformation and creators of the Fit Over 40 method. And together with our world-class coaching team, we've helped more than 6,000 women over 40 to fit back into their favourite clothes over the past decade. For more information about what we do, go to www.fit40info.com.
The key thing is, first of all, to not rush into the classic post-holiday diet that you used to do. Things like super low calories, maybe tracking them and cutting them down to 1,200, 1,000 or 800 a day, doing loads and loads of cardio, whether that's running or gym classes. All of that stuff, those extreme approaches when it comes to exercise and nutrition may have worked well in your 20s and 30s, but they'll actually make things worse over 40 and around menopause for kind of two key reasons as well. So first of all, these extreme approaches will lead to significant muscle loss. So when you're younger, your body retains muscle naturally very, very easily, especially in your 20s. But from the age of 30 on, it starts to lose it, and it accelerates around menopause as estrogen levels decline. And muscle is very valuable. It's what makes you feel firm and toned. It's what keeps your metabolism high. It's what's enables your body to process carbs better. It makes it easy to stay lean, and it makes it easy to feel younger, stronger, and healthier. So you really don't want to lose it. And these extreme approaches from menopause onwards will rapidly burn into your remaining muscle, which has probably already started to waste away unless you've done all the right things. It'll also make you feel flabbier and saggier. So again, accelerate that aging process. But the other thing these extreme approaches will do is they will also overstress the body. So the body becomes more sensitive to stress around menopause due to a reduction in estrogen. Estrogen helps to regulate cortisol, which is the main stress hormone. So when estrogen levels are lower from perimenopause onwards, and this often starts to happen from people's late 30s or early 40s, it means the body cannot deal with stress so well. And if cortisol levels are too high, it will trigger the weight gain triangle. So these are three kind of knock-on hormonal side effects of really high cortisol level, really high stress. So this is leptin resistance, insulin resistance, and thyroid deregulation. So leptin is the hormone that controls cravings. You'll get elevated cravings. Insulin resistance, insulin is a hormone that kind of controls fat storage and helps you to process carbs. If you have insulin resistance, you're going to process carbs worse. You're more likely to store them as fat, especially around the middle. And then you'll also get thyroid deregulation. And thyroid is the gland in your throat that controls your metabolism. So that means you're going to have a slower metabolism. So this means basically it's going to backfire. It's going to actually set yourself up to fail and to actually be more likely to gain weight. Even if you see very slight weight loss initially, you're actually then going to start gaining it even worse. You're going to be fighting cravings, you're going to be storing more fat due to that insulin resistance, and your metabolism is going to be slower. So the last thing you want to do post-holiday is anything extreme, because your body perceives this as a significant source of stress, and it will push cortisol levels over the edge, especially if you already have a busy, stressful job. You've got lots of responsibility at home, maybe caring for aging parents or looking after children going back to school or university. All of that's very, very stressful. So you're going to push it over the edge with the extreme diets around menopause. It's going to trigger that weight gain triangle, and it's going to actually stop you losing weight and probably cause you to gain even more weight. So after the holiday, you definitely don't want to do that. Instead, you want to do it differently. You want to do it in a way that works with your changing body and hormones. And we've got 7 key steps to doing this post-holiday to get that weight off fast. So Ben, what's the first thing you'd recommend people do post-holiday that's sustainable around menopause?
So number 1 is a process that we get our clients to go through inside the Fit Over 40 program, which is called the diet makeover. This is basically a simple process that involves cutting out 4 of the main problem food groups for women around menopause. We call these the WODS foods. That stands for wheat, alcohol, dairy, and sugar. They're all very calorie dense. So the more you have, the more you want as well. So it'll basically change your gut microbiome. The more of these foods you have, the more accustomed your kind of body gets to having them, and the more you'll crave them and the more you want them. The other problem is these can make menopause symptoms much worse. So if you overconsume all of these kind of, it's mostly just kind of processed foods, you're going to experience more menopause symptoms, from hot flushes, night sweats, mood swings, joint aches and pains. And, none of that is really going to help you if you're on a journey to try and lose weight, tone up, feel fit and healthy, etc. So cutting all these foods out, it doesn't have to be forever, just kind of temporarily, will help you break any bad habits. It will help you to stop cravings, and it will help you to get the scales moving fast and see those kind of first quick wins that can then spur you on for kind of a more longer term and longer lasting transformation. So doing a diet makeover, which is basically cutting out, again, wheat, alcohol, dairy, sugar, is like resetting an old computer. If your computer gets to the point where it's just frozen, this doesn't happen too much anymore, but you'll remember those old computers where it would completely freeze. You'd be you grab the window and you drag the window around the screen, and it just it just creates like thousands of the same window everywhere. Eventually just completely freezes and you get that blue screen of death. You have to do Control-Alt-Delete and try and reset the computer. But basically, until you do that reset, the computer just wouldn't respond. It wouldn't do anything that you needed it to do. So in terms of diet makeover, that basically just means cutting out those 4 food groups, wheat, alcohol, dairy, sugar, entirely for 1 to 2 weeks. That will be enough to do that reset. You don't then need to cut those foods out forever. But going forwards, the more sustainable strategy is just avoiding those foods about 80% of the time. So just making sure that those more processed, unhealthy foods are just kind of not a staple of what you're eating. They're not something that you're consuming daily or most days or for most of your meals, but they are something that you allow yourself. For example, if you go out for a meal, or if you go over to somebody's house for a dinner party, or you just fancy a bit of flexibility and you fancy a treat, those things are still able to be included. And we found with our clients, often this will lead to rapid results without overstressing the body around menopause. So for example, one of our clients, Sandra, she said, I'm on week 4. I've got 2 wins to share. Win number 1, I've been to see the practice nurse today for a blood pressure check and to get weighed. My blood pressure is now normal and I can stay off the blood pressure meds. Woohoo. And win number 2, I've lost 5 kilos. Whoop, whoop. Just thought I'd share. So it just goes to show, and it's a really kind of good way to kick things off. If you've just come back from holiday, maybe you're a few kilos heavier, maybe you're feeling a little bit kind of, maybe you're feeling a bit bloated, but kind of fluffy compared to usual. You do this diet reset, that's going to get you on the right track as quickly as possible, and then create that momentum to kind of push you forwards in the next step of your journey.
And the best thing about that is it's not in a way that's perceived as the body as a source of stress. It's not starving the body. It's not restricting you. And I don't know about you, Ben, but I hear from clients all the time when we speak to them in week 4. Myself or Ben try and speak to as many clients as we can in week 4 of the program to make sure they're getting everything they need. And they're not only seeing great results, but they're always telling me how they can't believe how much they can eat. And they've seen these amazing results. Just like Sandra, who lost 5 kilos, which is nearly a stone in 4 weeks. And she was someone who had probably a bit more weight to lose, but a lot of people lose 3, 4, 5 pounds, almost everyone within a couple of weeks of doing this, which is going to help you with that holiday weight a lot. So the next thing I would suggest doing is to actually work on hydration. So it's a really basic thing. It's not going to get you the long-term results, but it'll get you some short-term wins post-holiday in a healthy way. Because a lot of holiday weight is actually due to bloating. Because things like flying causes water retention, and then eating foods that contain more carbs and more salt also causes water retention. So if there's more salt in the system, your body will hold on to more water, and that will make you feel really bloated. It can cause your clothes to feel tighter. It can cause your weight to increase as well. It's not unusual to gain 3 to 5 pounds in weight from eating saltier, carbier food on holiday, and that's temporary. It's not body fat. Body fat and weight are not the same thing. And all you need to do is drink lots of water to help flush this through and reduce that water retention. And if you do that combined with the better diet Ben was talking about, again, that's going to really, really help to boost the results from that. And the easiest way to do this is just when you get up, drink a big glass of water and then have a big glass with every single meal. And then ideally, like I've got here, carry a good bottle of water around with you and try and drink one of those in the morning and one in the afternoon. And if you want a specific target, you can aim for somewhere around 2 liters, but it is quite arbitrary. And I think people sometimes stress too much about hydration, but post-holiday, it's a really good way to get that holiday weight off. And then within a week or so, you should see your weight kind of return back to its true weight. And then you can see, if there's still more weight than you'd like to see, then obviously you need to do more, which the diet approach to diet makeover that Ben talked about will help with, and then all the subsequent steps we're going to talk about now will also help with.
It's easy to come back from a holiday. So imagine you've just got back from a holiday and you've got this mountain of work to do. And then you basically barely move from your desk for a week. You're just kind of constantly at your desk, constantly working for that entire period of time. And a lot of the women that we work with are in desk-based jobs. It's not uncommon for them to be doing kind of 2,000 to 3,000 steps a day maximum when we start working with them. And the problem with this is, firstly, number one, your metabolism grinds to a halt if you barely move all day. So the more you just kind of generally move, the more calories you're going to burn. So if you're just sat still, you're burning absolutely 0 calories throughout the day. And secondly, the majority of extra calories burned throughout the day come from not doing workouts. So, it's hard to kind of compensate for this by just doing workouts, going out and doing cardio or whatever it is. But it just comes from your general activity and your general sort of movement. So you burn about 40 calories for every 1,000 steps. So if you do 10,000 steps per day, you'll burn an extra 400 calories compared to somebody who's doing less steps per day. And even if you did a 30-minute spin class or you run, 5K, you'll be lucky to burn more than 300 calories. Because one other thing to note is fitness trackers often overestimate calorie burn by almost, up to 2 times, studies have shown as well. And the other thing as well, if you're burning your calories through cardio, what tends to happen for people is because they feel that they've had a really hard workout and they've put loads of effort in, they finish that cardio session and then they feel, I need to kind of refuel from that workout. They have a few biscuits, they have a packet of crisps, they have whatever. And before they know it, even if they've only burnt 300 calories during the workout, they've consumed an additional 600 just because their hunger was elevated after doing that cardio session. So often it can backfire compared to just increasing your overall activity level. So you don't actually have to hit 10,000 steps per day. It's just kind of an arbitrary number. But if you make sure you're doing over 5,000 steps a day consistently, that can be the difference between your weight kind of steadily going up or your weight steadily going down around menopause. So it can make a huge difference. So ensuring that you're doing a decent step count and staying active is well worth doing and will help you to achieve your goals.
Okay. And another thing I'd recommend is looking back at the diet now. So we've looked at hydrating well to kind of get that initial bloating off. We've looked at cutting out the WODs foods, doing the diet makeover, which will clean up kind of your diet and make sure you're eating the right things and not eating the wrong things that will make everything worse around menopause. But around menopause, you actually need to get a bit more specific than that if you want to get really good results. So the next thing I would look at is protein. Most people think protein is for men or maybe even for younger people who are going to the gym, but actually this is completely wrong, completely backwards. The amount of protein you need around menopause is actually more than at any other point in your life, because when estrogen declines, estrogen is what's called anabolic, which means it helps to maintain and build muscle. And it's kind of like testosterone is for men. So testosterone is known for men and it does similar things for women too, but testosterone is known to make you big and muscly. And that's why some men take performance enhancing drugs that boost your testosterone or literally add more testosterone into the system. What's generally called steroids generally help to do that. But with women, estrogen has a similar effect of keeping you lean, keeping you toned, and helping to maintain that muscle. And you've got to compensate for those lower levels of estrogen. You don't have to give up when that's lower from perimenopause onwards, but you do need to change things to compensate for it. And most people don't do this, and therefore they end up not seeing the results they expect and not seeing results like they used to. So you want to make sure you're eating protein in every single meal. You want to make sure you're having about a palm-sized portion of protein, or if you're measuring it, you want about 30 grams minimum, ideally 40 to 60 is what the latest research and experts are saying in the menopause space now. And that's a lot more than most people are getting. It's the equivalent, we talked about it, I think, in the breakfast last week. It's the equivalent of maybe having 3 or 4 eggs with your breakfast, not 1 or 2. It's the equivalent of having a whole tin of tuna with your lunch, not half. So having a whole large chicken breast, not, again, just a couple of pieces. And this will really, really boost your results. There's loads of studies showing the effects of protein. There was one where they found people eating twice the normal amount and most people eat a very low amount, lost twice as much weight in the exact same time, even when everything else was kept the same. So protein is really, really effective for weight loss. Most people don't realize that. It doesn't make you big and bulky. It's just going to help you to lose the weight faster and keep that muscle, which is very small and firm, but will help make you firm and toned. will also help you recover from workouts if you're doing workouts. But if you're mainly focused on just losing the holiday weight, you just want to make sure you're getting that source of protein in every single meal. And if you do that, that will, again, really accelerate your progress post-holiday because of that effect of compensating for the lost estrogen, and also because it will keep you fuller for longer. So what I like to think of protein as being like, it's like putting a big log on a fire rather than throwing petrol on the fire. If you're just eating meals that are made up of carbs, or you're eating processed foods, it's like throwing petrol on a fire. There's a big flash of flame and then it's gone. There's a big burst of energy and it's gone. And that's not good for energy levels, but it's also not good for fat loss, because then you'll want more and you'll want more and you'll constantly craving and you'll end up overeating. If you eat protein, it's like putting a big hearty log on the fire that will slowly release energy for hours and hours and hours, and that will keep you full in terms of diet for hours and hours and hours. So you then don't go and eat other stuff. It means you're going to end up eating less and you're going to get better results. So the next thing I'd recommend doing to fine-tune that diet a little bit more around menopause is to make sure you're getting plenty of protein every single meal.
So the next thing to focus on is basically sleep. So a lack of quality sleep will disrupt your hunger hormones and lead to way worse cravings and overeating the next day. So, if you combine that with also being low on protein, you're also then disrupted sleep. And then you also add in, for example, doing a load of cardio. All of those things are going to send your cravings through the roof. So this is why, people can be in a situation where they feel like they're kind of doing everything right. However, their cravings are super high. And no matter what they do, they kind of, almost without realizing it, they overconsume on calories, meaning they see zero results. So in a study comparing people who were sleeping 8 hours a night to those sleeping 5 hours a night, those people who were sleeping 5 hours a night ate about 300 calories more per sitting than those sleeping 8 hours a night. And that might not sound like a lot, 300 calories, but if you do that consistently, that's enough to gain 2 pounds every week. And if you imagine that adding up over a 3-month time period, that's almost a 2 stone in weight gain over a 3-month time period. And that's kind of how, for a lot of women around menopause, their weight just steadily kind of creeps up on them. And suddenly they find that their clothes are not fitting. They find that they're just getting heavier and heavier. And a lot of the time, I'm kind of not sure what's actually led to that. And sleep can be one of the biggest culprits for this. So lack of sleep makes it way harder to lose weight, and it can be even worse around menopause as well. I think particularly for women around menopause as well, disturbed sleep is one of the common sort of menopause side effects that people get. However, you've just got to do whatever you can to try and optimize your sleep routine. So aim to get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And if you're struggling with broken sleep, try a magnesium supplement that can really help. So magnesium citrate or glycinate is best, as those are the most bioavailable forms, meaning your body can actually absorb that and can actually use that, unlike some other forms of magnesium. So again, magnesium citrate or magnesium glycinate are the ones to go for. And as well as that, there's lots of other things you can do. Just generally making sure your sleep environment is good, making sure your room is dark, your bed is comfy, the temperature is right for you, making sure you're getting to bed, actually leaving yourself enough time in bed to actually get those 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Might sound pretty like basic, but if you're getting to bed late and you're having to wake up early for work, you're not giving yourself any chance. Also making sure that you're staying away from phones and devices and things before bed, and getting yourself into a nice routine of winding down. Maybe that's reading a book, maybe that's some meditation, whatever it is. Maybe that's a hot bath, whatever works for you. Just find something that allows you to kind of settle down and get yourself off to sleep at night. The other thing as well is caffeine as well. So just making sure that you're not over consuming caffeine, especially in the afternoons. So set a cutoff point where you don't have any more caffeine. I would say kind of after lunchtime, completely cut it out, because it will still be in your system and it will impact your sleep. And then also, I know, Rob, you talked about hydration before. If you can make sure that you get a lot of that hydration done earlier in the day, then, rather than getting to just before bed and then being like, oh, I haven't drank any water, and you drink a whole liter of water right before bed, and then you're just up all night having to go to the loo over and over again, which is obviously going to disturb your sleep. So there's lots you can do for sleep, but the key takeaway is, if you don't get enough sleep, it's going to impact your cravings, it's going to impact your overall stress level, it's going to impact your results. So it can actually play a significant part, and it's just another thing to look at, another thing that you can optimize to see the best results.
Yeah, and it's one of the areas our coaching team spend the most time with with each client is improving sleep, because everything's easier. And so many people are struggling with sleep around menopause, in my experience, but also, like you said, Ben, not doing things to actually improve. They're doing a lot of things to make it worse, from working late to eating late, to not making the best food choices, having alcohol or caffeine, and all of these things before menopause you can get away with, but around menopause, they're the things that will either make or break your sleep. And we've had clients go from terrible energy, tired, fatigued, like walking through treacle every single day, to feeling like they used to again, bursting with energy, jumping out of bed, being able to work all day with loads of energy. They get everything done within their normal working hours because they've got more energy, and then they can wind down and sleep properly. And it all starts with that. And it seems like a very strange one for post-holiday weight loss, but actually a lot of people's sleep routines all over the place with travel and everything. So you want to get straight back to that routine when you get home, get an early night, like you said, Ben, use all those tactics you talked about, and it will kick things off really well, along with the other changes we talked about today. Which brings me on to accountability, because all of this stuff is well and good. Having more protein, cutting out the WODs foods, these are not super complicated, but you could do them in theory, giving more steps, improving your sleep routine. But let's face it, like when people are tired, when they're stressed, when they've had a terrible week, when the symptoms are getting taking over and they're not feeling good, it's very easy to just throw in the towel. And accountability is basically having someone checking up on you and making sure you actually did what you said you'd do. And unless you're like one of the 1% of the population who seem to have unlimited willpower, which I'm definitely not one of them, having someone to be accountable to is an absolute must. Because if you don't have someone saying, did you do what you said you'd do? It's really easy to just not do it, to give up, say, I'll do it later. And then before you know it, another 3-6 months have passed, you're another half a stone up, and it's getting harder and harder and harder. Every time you're gaining more weight and slipping, going in the wrong direction, it's going to be another few months of hard work. So the sooner you can nip it in the bud, the easier, and having someone actually keep you accountable is key. And I'm not just saying this, not doing it myself. Ben, you and I were in Belfast this week. We have coaches in all areas of our life. We have a coach to work on our business and make sure we're helping our clients as best as possible. And we took 2 days to go there to, it's a very significant investment to work with them in person to make sure that we have a good plan, like we're going through today, a good plan, but also, to be honest, one of the main reasons we just do that, and we pay for the mentorship here, and we pay for mentorship, we have our own coaching and physios and things like that for fitness as well. It's just because we know it works, because you do the things you wouldn't do on your own. So we've got a list from that day in Belfast. We've got 5 big actions that I reckon, I don't know about you, Ben, we'd probably have kicked the can down the road for 3 months saying, yeah, maybe we probably should do those things. And I think we probably would have done them eventually, but it may have taken another year, another 6 months, but maybe we'd have never done them at all. But I know for a fact we're going to get all those 5 things done within a week or two. And it's the same thing with everything we've talked about today. If you want to get the result, it's about speed of execution. It's about not just sitting on it and letting that holiday weight sit and settle and become permanent. It's about going, right, I'm going to deal with it now, get it done, and having someone to keep you accountable will make all of the difference. And it's just like at work. Like if you have a boss or you have a business partner and you know there's a goal and they say, this is the project, this is the deadline, you get it done. You work really, really hard and you get it done because there's someone else keeping an eye on what you're doing. And you need to leverage that same thing in your fitness journey. So many people are hoping for a result, but they don't have any accountability. They've got maybe a friend they tell or a family member who just lets them off the hook, or maybe it backfires and they see it as nagging and actually they do the opposite. It needs to be someone impartial and someone who's an expert in what you're trying to achieve, because then you'll believe what they say, you're confident in what they're saying, and you'll put it into action. And accountability is just one of the many reasons our clients see such fantastic results, but it's one of the biggest reasons. Every member of our Fit Over 40 private coaching is assigned a personal coach that they work with the entire time, and they check in with every week. And if they don't check in, or the coach notices they're off track, which we monitor all the time, we're straight in touch to find out what's not working and to get them back on track ASAP. So the next thing really is to get some accountability. Stop trying to do it on your own. Your life's busy, your life's complicated. You don't have time to kind of figure all this stuff out. If you're anything like all the clients we work with, they're very, very busy. And getting that accountability means you will do what you know you need to do, and you'll get the results months, years quicker if you may have never got them at all without it.
So the final thing then, so point number 7 is leverage or loss aversion theory. So Studies into human psychology show that we're more motivated to avoid losing something than we are to gain something new. So loss aversion is an important concept associated with prospect theory and is encapsulated in the expression, losses loom larger than gains. So it's thought that the pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining that thing, even if it's the value of the thing is exactly the same. So a good example of this is if you ever got a parking ticket, you might get a parking fine for it might be £40, £50, something like that. And then, people will go through this long kind of process of like writing letters to the company, contacting them, like trying to contest the fine, trying to like collect evidence about why they were incorrectly fined and this and that. And just going through this whole process of kind of corresponding with this company to try and avoid losing kind of £50, something like that. Whereas on the flip side, the time that they spent doing that, maybe they could have done like a couple of hours of overtime at work or something. They could have worked a couple of extra hours, whatever it was, and they could have gained that £50. But like the psychological benefit you get from gaining that amount is it feels a lot worse to feel that somebody's taken something away from you. And I think that's definitely true. But in the context of weight loss, it can get slightly confusing because the thing that you're gaining is actually losing weight. So since the pain of losing something is twice as powerful as gaining something, with your fitness goals, you can basically leverage this to give yourself more motivation. And, if you're struggling to be motivated, struggling to be consistent right now, you're feeling like you've come back from holiday, but you don't quite have that kind of oomph to get yourself going and to get into those healthy habits. Something like investing into a fitness program will mean you have something to lose, i.e. the money that you've invested. So when you make a significant investment in something, and the more you invest, the more motivated you'll be to make sure that was worth it, you're going to be more likely to put that thing into action. So I know from experience, I'm always keen to kind of, if I want to work on a particular area, I'm happy to kind of make an investment into that, because I know that by doing that, I'm going to be much more likely to do it, whether that is, in the context of fitness, in the context of business. I know Rob and I have always, when it's come to running Trinity and trying to improve and grow the business in whatever way, we've always had some kind of coach or some kind of mentor who we're making like an investment in every single month. And just having that there just gives you that push when you're thinking, I'm not really feeling it today. You're like, nope, I've got to get up and I've got to do it. And it makes a huge difference. So I know, for example, if you, I think, was this you, Rob, who invested money into a meditation course, and then it made a huge difference to how consistent you were with that before compared to afterwards?
Yeah, so I did a 5-week meditation course that was £400 with a really great expert, and it was a painful, it's quite a significant amount of money for one call a week to learn, to kind of, I already knew about meditation. I'd already done their kind of fundamental course, but to kind of get a boost, a kickstart back into it. And I paid the money and I showed up to all the calls because I didn't want to waste that money. And we hear this from clients all the time. They don't want to waste the money they've invested into their program. So then they're doing it. And they said, on my own, I just wasn't really doing it. I'd do it for a bit and then I'd stop. And I have never stayed consistent with something for so long. And I do believe a part of this, it's obviously not all of it. We have phenomenal coaches, a really good program that's not too difficult to stick to, so people can stay consistent and they get great results. So they want to keep going. But a big part of it is also that financial investment. And with that meditation course, I went from doing like 5 to 10 minutes occasionally to like 20 to 30 minutes every day. So it made a huge difference to my follow through and then how I felt as well. So we've covered a lot today. We've covered 7 key things to lose the holiday weight. And I would say these are kind of, they're not necessarily in order of what's most important. It depends on you. But the 7 things we recommend doing is, first of all, cut out the WODs foods for 1 to 2 weeks. So that's wheat, alcohol, dairy, and sugar. That will give you a massive boost in results. Not always easy to do on your own, which may then bring you on to things like getting accountability or investing in something to make sure you stick to it. Then you also want to drink more water because that'll help flush out any temporary water retention and bloating. Start increasing your step count. It's very easy just to get glued to your computer with your massive email inbox full of everything and not move. get at least 30 grams of protein in every meal, palm-sized portion with every single meal. That will really accelerate your results and make you feel better around menopause. And aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night to get straight back into a good routine. If you struggle with any of that, obviously there's the accountability. There's accountability out there that will help you to put that into action. And it may sound like a lot to do. There's lots of different steps there. So you can always just pick one, put that into action and see where you get to, and then start adding in the other layers afterwards. And that's basically what we do inside of our Fit Over 40 private coaching program. We break everything down into small steps. So just 1 or 2 things to do each week. So it's not overcomplicated. It's not overwhelming. And people often lose 5 to 10 pounds within their first few weeks. But again, don't just take it from me. Obviously, we run the program and I'm biased. I think it's great. But Ben, I think you've got an example here from a client who did do all these things we're talking about today and got really great results rapidly, as did many others. But this is a really great one.
Yeah, so this is from Jo, who's 56 years old. She's a leadership coach based in Woking. So she told us, I have been blown away by how much my body and my mindset has changed since joining Trinity. My body started changing immediately. I lost half a stone really quickly. And even in the first 2 weeks, was really shocked to find that when I got up in the morning, my back and legs no longer ached, which they had done previously. My relationship to alcohol has changed to a baffling degree. I used to drink every day during lockdown, and I've always loved wine, but somehow the education and the consistent rethinking that the program provides, along with the focus on diet and daily calorie intake, means I just don't want to choose it anymore. I now look at wine and think that's stress, cortisol, sugar, and weight gain all in one glass. And I don't just want one. And I feel so good about it because I'm looking after myself. One part of the program that is a game changer is having a coach, and the fact that I have to check in with my coach, Danny, every week. It has totally revolutionized the level of personal accountability I have to take for how I take care of myself. She has provided incredible motivation, reassurance, expertise, and perspective during the easy and the tough times, including providing me with diet options when I was out of ideas, making suggestions, and sending me so many links with alternative exercises to do when I injured my foot, or when I was really ill with tonsillitis. She's just been a rock. And for me, having a personal coach who is with you for the whole journey is one of the most inspired and effective elements of the whole program. In terms of success, my body has transformed. I dropped a whole dress size inside 2 months and I am 9 stone 11. I haven't been 9 stone anything since I was 30. I've been buying new clothes in a small or a size 8 to 10 when I was heading for a 14 prior to Trinity. And I've had the joyful experience of digging out lovely dresses and trousers that I haven't worn for 10 years. I also was shocked in month 4 when I saw my arms accidentally in the mirror. They were slim, lean, toned, and sculpted. I stared at them and flexed them for ages. I'd always wanted arms like these. And I didn't even have it as a goal, but there they were, looking impressive. I started wearing sleeveless vest tops this summer to show them off, which is a bonus, and I know I look great. Try it. You'll be gobsmacked at how quickly your body and mind can change. And with the amazing support from the Trinity staff and all the other gals on the program, you'll be achieving more than you imagined, faster than you believed. So amazing testimonial there from Jo. And if you want to find out more about the plan that Jo followed, along with thousands of other women who lost 1 to 2 stone and 1 to 2 dress sizes in 12 weeks or less, just head to www.fit40info.com and you can find all of the information on that page.
Okay, so that just about wraps up for today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next week for another episode. We will see you then.